Well, hello, friends, neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome down to the Nook. Welcome to Saturday. We're going to talk American whiskey and bourbon. I really wanted to title this "Is Buying Whiskey on Sale Worth It?" because I got these on crazy discount. But then I realized, yeah, of course, like if you're going to buy whiskey, always buy it on sale or on offer. So that was a bad title. So I thought, well, let's just talk about these bottles. I will mention the sales I got on them and what that I think sometimes does mean. But for now, let's talk about Rebecca Creek out of Texas. I've been looking forward to trying a Rebecca Creek. This is their very entrance bottle that I ended up getting. And then, we'll talk about 1792. I've talked about 1792 with you guys before, but it's nice to bring a bit of Barton on again. This was going to be an on sale kind of episode. I will talk about that in the back part, but really, let's just talk Rebecca Creek, entrance, blended, but Spanish oak, and 1792, small batch bourbon. Grab something, pour something from America, and come on back. 3, 4. Thanks for coming back. Hope you have something in your glass. So this first one, Rebecca Creek out of Texas, I've had many viewers comment, when I kind of go on about Still Austin, one of my faves, or Iron Root, that I've got to get into some Rebecca Creek. They're putting out some really good whiskey. And because I have a lot of respect for those people, I'm sure they are. This is a very entrance blend. It's not meant to be the best of what they can put out. So let's keep our expectations in check. This bottle, though, is their Spanish oak blended whiskey. So, it says right on the back, we've got 4-year-old bourbon that's aged in new Spanish oak, apparently softer oak that lets more interaction happen. And then they blend it with a 5-year-old American whiskey that was just aged in American new oak. So it's young. It's also like 40%. I do believe all of certainly their bourbon is higher rye. So let's see what this bit of a Spanish oak experiment turned out. Oh, and because I said stuff about the sale, like this was $50 off in my market. Might even still be $50 off at Highlander Liquor. And so, it's hard for me not to buy a bottle when it's sitting around the shelf at, $90. Like, yeah, okay. And then it's like, no, it's $50 off today. You're like, okay, I better bring that home. So let's see what this blended American whiskey out of Rebecca Creek is like. On the nose. Spice, darker cinnamons. A little bit of vanilla, a little bit of sweetness, like really light sweetness, sugary sweetness. And a light fruit syrup note. I can't get a distinct fruit on it, but we're going lots of spice. It's the first thing that hits me. Lots of spice. Not quite peppering, like even though it's high rye. It's more like a hot cinnamon. I get that more in bourbon, and that's staying true to this whiskey. A little bit of oak tannin, lots of vanilla. All right, let's try it on the palate. Cheers. The palate on this one's kind of constrained. That makes sense. 40% is you're just barely able to say I'm a whiskey. But it's got a lot of kind of roast. I'm going to go with coffee more than chocolate. Chocolate is a richer roast for me. It's more like almost a roast grain. So a little roast, toasted oak, oak char, and sweet. Didn't get any more of the fruit that I was hoping for. I better try another sip here before I give you some final thoughts. Rebecca Creek, Spanish oak, but just a blended whiskey. Cheers. Second sips are almost always better. This didn't get any better. In fact, it actually got a little worse. It's now kind of bitter. So I've got sweet bitter, like both of those going on, like sugary and bitter. A little roast coffee. No good fruit backbone. Tannic oak. I again, as I said in the opener, the people that have recommended Rebecca Creek to me are fantastic whiskey folk. So they clearly can put out better whiskey. I haven't talked to you guys about this, even though it's been on my shelf, and I have been trying and trying to get more flavors out of this bottle. So I've had it for a while. I have to say, without hesitation, this is one of the most disappointing whiskeys I've had in a long time. Partly because I thought Rebecca Creek was going to be really, really good. And again, it probably is, but not this bottle. Even at $50 off Canadian, I wouldn't buy this bottle. So that now it's sitting at, well, I don't know what it was, 45, 49. Like I wouldn't pay $40 for this whiskey. This is not good. It's bitter. It's just, wow. I got to pull it back. There's a couple of interesting things right up front. There's a couple of roast notes that almost go into chocolate. There's some nice spice profile. So it's not a drain pour, but boy, I'm disappointed with this whiskey and haven't said that in quite a while. I have to give this a star rating, I guess 3. It's almost under 3 stars, like 2 3/4 for me. Thanks. I'm so sorry for all the fans, and I'm quite sure they make excellent, excellent whiskey. This just isn't one of them. Okay, let's follow that up with hopefully a kind of standard bourbon. This is, 1792 small batch out of the Barton distillery. Yeah, they're bought by Sazerac, but they're in Kentucky and they've been making bourbon for a long time. They used to make stuff that had age, well, I think they still make stuff that have age stamps, but even their entrance used to have age stamp. This now is just small batch, 1792. They don't disclose their mash bill. They say high rye. Everything I read pegs it between 15 and 21%. I can't remember now the highest I've seen it, but it's a higher rye bourbon. And aside from saying about their distiller carefully selecting barrels to make this blend, they don't really give a lot more information. Most sites say, it's probably still a bit older, 7 to 8 years. I feel like with today's whiskey, if they're moving it well, it's probably younger, like around a 6-year-old bourbon. But it's a classy bottle. Actually, both these bottles today are this wide, flat version, which are okay. It's fun to have a little bit different. They feel different in the hand. But I don't know enough about the history of 1792 or the Barton Distillery. But let's get into the whiskey. Oh, I should say it's 46.9% higher rye. Let's go in on the nose. Very much contrast to this. This is now, I said there was sugar in here, but this is now sweet vanilla toffee. Yeah, this is a bit more bitter. And a light cherry. I don't normally get cherry on 1792. I really don't. I almost get no fruit on this. But today, right now, it could be because I'm in contrast. It's sweet, it's light, it's toffee, it's vanilla. It actually isn't as spicy as this one on the nose, even though it's, higher alcohol. Let's dive in. 1792 on the palate. Cheers. So the palate holds up much more. It's a little chewier. It's a little thicker. We kind of go through almost a little bit of roasted nut, but it stays in a savory place. Yes, there's sweet vanilla, but it stays cinnamons and almost light clove. Not quite. That's a little too complex, but it stays in oaks, in darker flavors. If that cherry is there, is a dark cherry. It's not really a cherry anymore. It is also, roasted and darker like I was getting over here, but it holds up through with a little bit of caramel and feeling and mouthfeel. Better go in again for the second and for the finish. Cheers. Okay, it picked up a little better, right? We got a little more spicing, a little bit more backing, still nice and chewy, or has a good feel, a little nut oil feel. But I want to say, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's me, but put that in there. Well, it's always me. But it's also not as good as I wanted because I had a 1792 full proof single barrel pick from Ryan Egan last year or the year before. Boy, it's been a while. And I loved it. It was a bruiser. It was hot. And actually, this is hot too, which is surprising given the percentage. And I Loved it. It had good, almost like a sweet oak, and like that one, go back and check out the video. That was a wonderful, wonderful bourbon. I'm glad I also got this at about, I think this one was only about $40 off. It was out of Craft Cellars in Calgary, and I don't regret buying this one. I regret buying this one. But here, this is still a decent bourbon, a decent, more, woody, spicy, oakier bourbon, less fruits, less sweetness. And I'm okay with that. It's a little huggy, but I'm actually not in love with this one, which is surprising. So, I'm still only going to give this a pretty modest rating. That's also why I chewed at it for a while. I'm down around 3 3/4, and I know lots of people love 1792, but for me, it's not hitting. Would I buy it again at that sale price? Absolutely. Would I buy it in that $45 range? Yeah, I think I probably would. But there's a lot of decent bourbon in that $40 to $50. These are all Canadian prices range. And I'm not reaching for that again. I will try another full proof. I will try another Ryan Egan proof pick. Absolutely. This may never come on my shelf again. And this Rebecca Creek blended Spanish oak will never, this is not a good whiskey. But this isn't bad. It's just not hitting my flavor profile. Kind of a downer to come on here and share a couple of whiskeys that I'm not like, you got to run out and get them. And coming back to that sale thing, one of the problems that I find with deep sales, $50, $40 off, is it speaks to how overpriced they were in the first place. Saying I wouldn't buy this at the new $40 price range tells you that it should never have been on the shelf at $90. It should never have been on the shelf at $90. So the comment that I was going to try to make, and same with this, 1792, I've seen, in the States, you can get it for whatever, $30 American or less than that. So then why is it sitting on my shelf at $70 Canadian or whatever? I know it in some stores it sits a little less than that regularly, but I think sometimes people are pricing them not in their value range. So the question about whether is it good to buy whiskey on sale? Of course. Why wouldn't you try these when they're on sale? That's a silly question. But when I can go out and find whiskey on $40 or $50 off, that tells me they were mispriced. Unless you found a honeypot, you found a place that doesn't know the value of whiskey and they're just clearing it out, they're shutting down. There's lots of caveat to that. Sometimes you just find a steal and that's amazing. But if you're in a regular store that's not going out of business and they carry this stuff regularly and suddenly there's a really deep sale, I think sometimes that says, what's going on in our industry? Anyways, I guess that was a bit of a rant. Hope you guys are having a better Saturday than I am today. Hope you have better whiskey than I've got here. Well, the 1792 is not bad. Truly, this is a fine bourbon. But anyways, I wish you the best and hope you guys have a great weekend. Take care.